That Great Business Show, officially Ireland's top business podcast, crowned UCD's Smurfit's Business Podcast of the Year.
Welcome to episode 267 of That Great Business Show, all in glorious Technicolor here on YouTube, or in simpler black and white. Those are words on Spotify and or Apple or wherever you prefer to listen. It's a while since I mentioned it, but if you are finding it tough in business at the moment, you could use a great laugh by going and listening back to episode 195. That's where you will find Paddy Mead. Paddy Mead, who became CEO of Bonham's Auctioneers, and on episode 195, he tells stories like no other, and if you don't laugh out loud, go see a doctor. He's brilliant. He'll lift the spirits. And we have more great stories in this episode shortly. Great news for oil and gas importing Ireland, as prices should plummet in the coming months, but wait for it. Despite this, the cost of your electricity will rise. Oil prices down, electricity prices up. Go figure. And if you want to make a career pivot, there's an app for that, and we'll have the developer with us in studio. Speaking of pivots, it's time to pivot away from those horrible, disgusting, fuzzy shaving foams. All those cans, millions and millions of them, are sent to landfill by law. Why? Because they are deemed to be hazardous waste. It's terrible. The simple alternative is De Facto shaving oil, made in Mayo, sold worldwide online, defactoshave.com. All natural, all recyclable. Now, packed house when I emceed Cantor Fitzgerald's 30 years in Ireland, and our first guest was one of the star speakers. Phil Byrne is a bright boy. He's Chief Investment Officer at Cantor Fitzgerald Asset Management. He knows lots of things, enough to have won him Equities Manager of the Year at the 2025 European Pensions Award. Now, as far as I know, and I've been in the business a while, it's the first time I've heard of an asset manager in Ireland winning a European award. At first, it's a bit like winning the All-Ireland medal, maybe gold medal at the Olympics. It's a big one. Phil knows lots of things. And the chat in the night could have gone on and on, but one thing that caught my attention, as it will affect all businesses here, is that though the oil price is falling, Phil says that the price of electricity is going to rise. And that, for businesses, is bad news. And the good news, though, is that interest rates look like they are heading down, properly down. It'll take time, but at least it gives you some breathing space. Phil Byrne, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Great, good to be here.
Am I right, or am I over-egging it? Am I doing my usual big old ham of oil prices down and you said electricity prices going up? Come on.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's one of the amazing things that's happening in so many asset markets at the moment is that a lot of the old rules of thumb that we've all lived by are changing as the world is transformed, and no more so in these energy and power markets, where effectively, as we look out now, out to 2030, it looks like we have a glut of fossil fuels, so almost an energy oversupply, but a power shortage. And that is going to manifest itself, unfortunately, in higher bills. And quite incredibly, Conall, since we spoke actually about this last week, some of the leading CEOs of UK power companies were up in front of Parliament yesterday, and they actually put some figures on it, which would be really interesting. So the CEO of E.ON said that he thinks even if gas prices, this is in the UK, but it'll apply broadly here, went to zero in 2030, electricity prices would stay here. And another of his colleagues said even if gas prices were to half by 2030, electricity prices would be up 20%. And do I give you the reason why?
Of course.
Yeah. So
I mean, my jaw's dropping here because there's something here. The input prices have gone to zip. And they must be making so much money.
Yeah, so I think your electricity bill is roughly sort of 30 or 40% dictated by the power price. But the rest is other fees and charges, transmission, distribution, paying for renewables, carbon taxes, etc. And because the build out of the grid is going to be so great, the need of electrification and the cost of doing that over the next 5 or 10 years is so great, that's ultimately going to be charged back through those fees and charges. The speed at which we're electrifying effectively is a lot quicker than the speed with which we can build out the
How
grid.
come they didn't tell us this before? Do you remember what they don't teach in Harvard?
No, I think it's no one's fault. It's a complicated issue, and but two things have happened probably unexpected. So if we go back to 21 and 22, the energy price shock we had, so particularly led by Ukraine, that's one of the reasons why both gas and oil prices are falling now, because we're getting so much supply on because of that shock. So no one could have seen those two things happening, and also the speed at which we're electrifying or need electricity is being transformed because of the demand from data centers. And again, 2 or 3 years ago, that was before we had this explosion of AI everywhere. And that's really driving the demand for electricity growth. We've had no growth in electricity demand in the Western world for 20 years. And now over the next 5-10 years, it's 2-3-4%, depending on who you are.
And I did clutch at the straw. This is when we were having our chat. I did clutch at that straw of small nuclear reactors. But I think you told me that that's 20, 30 years out. That's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to happen overnight. If you even look in the US, who are trying they will use power, any type of power, and what they're bringing on, it's fuel cells, it's bringing back recommissioning old nuclear plants that are already there. But in terms of that technology, that's even further out.
So come on, we like good news. There must be some good news in all of this.
Yeah, there's great news. Like, so the oil price, he said, like, we're lucky now. So
the oil price is only good to us if we can get cheaper power.
Not if you're a truck driver or a taxi man, or so.
But
the oil price,
they are being made drive electric.
Yeah,
remember?
well,
that's part of the problem.
The irony is the consumer, we're forced, rightly so, into an electric world, and the old fossil fuels are going to be even more abundant supply than we had. And the IEA next year predicting we could have up to 4 million barrels excess
per
oil
day.
supply. Per day. Yeah, 4 out of like a market of over 100 million.
Yeah.
Because the Saudis have brought back all their supply. The non-OPEC supply is coming on. Chinese demand is collapsing, or the growth in Chinese demand, I should say, is collapsing. And ironically, China's the quickest to roll out electric vehicles, etc. So it's fascinating. I said it's just reflective of how much things are changing. And it's slightly counterintuitive to what you would have thought, because that link between gas prices and electricity prices has been there forever.
And we love good news on this podcast for businesses. So if you can't do the electricity, talk to me about the interest rates, because there is a little bit, not a huge, but a little bit of good news there.
Yeah, so at the moment, the ECB had been speaking recently that perhaps they're at the end of their rate cutting cycle, so rates would settle around 2%. And we look into 2026, we think actually the risk is to the downside, that they'll need more rate cuts. We particularly think they're over-egging the strength of the European economy, and particularly the strength of the German economy. I think that,
which is the real economy, because truth be told, the EU is Germany when it comes to the economies. Isn't that right? Germany, France.
Well, historically it was, yes, absolutely. But Germany's been struggling for 10 years now, really. And
tell me about that great chart that you have about Poland.
Yeah, so
this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. But a lot of people were circulating it around social media and some of the research analysts. Just Polish GDP compared to British GDP and UK GDP as well over the last 30 years. So if you had gone back to the 90s, you would have, say, Polish GDP around €10,000 ahead, and UK and German around 40 to 50. You know, fast forward now, that Polish GDP is up at 40, and British and German GDP per capita is still in that 40 to 50 level.
So they have rocketed.
Yeah, they've rocketed as those more traditional economies have gone sideways. So it shows the European economy is more diverse. Areas like Spain, which have been on the right side of this energy trade and power as well, because they're renewables.
Sunshine.
They've got growth. Yeah, so Spain has been a bright spark. Italy, Italian bonds are higher rated than French bonds now. Think where we've come from over 10 years. So
10 years ago, they were in the basket.
Yeah, they were the part of the pig. So the world evolves, markets evolve.
So go back to the what's going to happen with the interest rates, because Germany is weak, which is exactly what happened in 2008, isn't it? Germany weak, they kept dropping interest rates when we should have been having interest rates being pushed up against us to cool us down. So are we going to have the same problem here again?
Yeah, we could easily. Yeah, no,
I thought we were talking about good news.
Well, it is good now. So it depends if you're a borrower or a lender. You know what I mean?
Well, not if everybody's trying to buy a house, because house prices will go up again if cheaper mortgages.
Absolutely, yeah. Because obviously our economy here is booming for different reasons, and inflation overall is still rolling over in Europe. So there's that's another reason why they can probably reduce even further next year.
So that's partial good news, depending, as you say, depending on which one you're on. Now, the other one which is doing the rounds is the big AI collapse. Now, let's go into this in detail because this is kind of interesting. There is a company called OpenAI. OpenAI owns ChatGPT. They are going around to the various chip manufacturers, NVIDIA, Broadcom, etc., and OpenAI has no money, basically. Is that right? I mean, they haven't. They're funded, but they don't actually make money. And yet they are investing indirectly tens of billions of dollars. So it kind of doesn't make any logical sense. And older people, are waiting for one horrible collapse to happen. Discuss. You, remember, are the gold medal winner. You know things.
Yeah. So OpenAI is a fascinating part of what is an even more fascinating ecosystem, which is AI in general, or accelerated compute. And there's many different aspects to this. There's many different companies involved. So there's the semiconductors that are benefiting. There's the software companies. There's the utility companies providing the power. Industrial companies. Ultimately, enterprises that can use it. So there's a whole ecosystem. The particular instance, what's happening with OpenAI, is quite unusual because they're a private company. First of all, they're effectively a startup. They've 800 million users after a year, so that's the quickest take-up of any product in the history of the world, multiple times quicker than the internet or Facebook. So that's fascinating. They are probably going to generate about 10 billion of revenue this year. From a standing start, it's not bad. And
so they have a revenue.
They have a revenue. Yeah, they're losing money. They're losing about 10 billion a year as well, but they are generating an incredible amount of revenue from the start. They extrapolate that that's going to keep growing over the next few years. The private market has valued them at 500 billion. So it is an incredible story in itself. However, you're right. What's happened recently is very unusual. So they had a deal with Microsoft that they've effectively been able to walk away from, essentially. That's allowed them freedom to do all deals with other companies. And they've signed agreements with multiple semiconductor companies in particular to try and help them build out this ecosystem. And they've committed, and Oracle is one of the big ones, they've committed an inordinate amount of revenue to these companies. Some people say it's up to $1 trillion if you were to add it all up over 10 years, but they generate no revenue themselves.
House of cards.
Potentially, or it's the next great investment cycle. And the answer is it's probably somewhere in between. It's never as black and white sometimes as the market makes out.
But you have had many, because I certainly have. I mean, you're in the business, and I've had people coming to me saying, end of the world, do I get out of stocks now because it's about to collapse? It's, it's peak, it's nuts, it's gone nuts.
Yeah, as I said, I think the last couple of months, there were certain share prices that certainly the moves were inordinate, and a lot of them were based on OpenAI being able to deliver their particular project. However, this AI opportunity is far greater than OpenAI. And there are larger companies such as Microsoft and NVIDIA and Amazon who are incredibly profitable, who are also driving it and doing it their way in maybe perhaps a slightly more conservative way. So if we take Microsoft, Google and Amazon, the so-called hyperscalers, some people are worried about how much they're spending on it, but at least they're spending it out of their own cash. And they have over the last 3 years. It's all been cash flow generated. A lot of it goes to NVIDIA that makes 80% profit margins, and they reinvested. So there is really strong aspects of it. And then there is certain aspects that are quite speculative. So how we approach it in our funds is to say, well, don't dismiss the whole thing. Just find the winners, find who's going to benefit and avoid those areas that are maybe more speculative or not as unsure.
And name those speculative or unsure areas.
Well, the OpenAI one we struggle with just because it's a private company.
Well, you can't invest there anyway.
No, we can't. Yeah. But even now, the investments, it's the public company share prices that are being driven by its promises. We feel probably.
Do you not find that promise or the whole thing just a bit?
No, it's unsettling. Oh, absolutely. We've taken a step back because of what's happened and the moves have been so strong. But the people who are investing in OpenAI, like NVIDIA have put a stake in, they are the smartest people in the room. Like Jensen, Huang in NVIDIA, you look back over his interviews over the last 15 years, he's meticulously laid out the vision for accelerated compute. So you also don't want to ignore him people like him who are saying, no, this is the way to do it. And also with OpenAI in particular, some of it's chicken and egg, because the biggest problem they face in rolling out compute is the power shortage, which we touched upon earlier, and the ability to make leading edge semiconductors. And OpenAI and NVIDIA have no control over the two of them. And they're trying to convince that industry that they need to invest, you know what I mean? So we can build out. So it is trying to, maybe they're trying to bluff them. I don't think so, but they are trying to show, no, we have deals with Oracle, we have deals with AMD, please, you, basically TSMC, you bring on more capacity for more leading edge semiconductors, etc.
So it's not going to fall apart.
It's not going to fall apart, but it's not a straight line, and it's not as simple as everyone's going to win. If you use the analogy of, we look back to the early internet, you could have said AOL, so America Online, Yahoo, Bebo, Nokia, Ericsson. You could have said all those companies are complete.
Gone, not a completely gone. Yeah,
but you could have said all these companies are going to go to zero. The internet's a fraud, and none of it's going to work. And you would have been dead right, but lost a fortune because someone else picked up the mantle. And here we are, you know what I mean, with companies that didn't exist back then.
Actually, I got a right laugh because you were talking about other companies that are winners within this. Seagate. Now, for those of you who know Ireland's previous history, Seagate was a big employer in Ireland. I don't know whether they employ people here yet or still, but that was one. And there was a second one that you said, and there was a reason behind it.
Well, it's just the overall demand for memory of any type, even the more traditional, like flash memory and NAND, is going to go through the roof on the back of AI. So, as I said, it's benefiting all sectors, both within technology, but other industries as well.
And there was a second company, though. Can you remember? Was it Seagate? Because it was another one that was it was based in Ireland. And I was just said, whoa, okay, if you wait long enough.
Yeah, things come back around. Well, look at Oracle now was completely out of favour and was seen as it had missed the cloud. Larry Ellison was sort of written off as, the last cycle. And now he was the richest man in the world briefly again.
And yeah, okay, we won't go into him because that's another thing. Yeah. So looking out into the future, because this is what you're good at. What's it looking like? Give me a 2-year view, 3-year view for anybody listening who has some cash to invest, not vast amounts. Where would you start putting your cash? And I know it's all about profile. Take the middle of the road, middle age, middle this, middle that, whatever.
So I don't give personal investment advice to people. They need to definitely go to their investment
Cantor
advisor.
Fitzgerald, that's what he's.
Cantor they go to their wealth manager, and hopefully their advisor would advise them to put funds with us. But I can say for our funds, how we're investing and thinking about the world, we see no reason why the next 3 or 5 years and the returns equity markets in general have given people, and our funds have given people, can't be repeated. The same conditions are in place. However, those last 3 or 5 years, which have given great returns, have also had these incredible air pockets of volatility. And that's the battle for all investors and long-term investors to navigate now at the moment.
And that is a euphemism that you used before, and I smiled when you said it, because anybody like me who hates flying knows what air pockets are like. You hit them and you can go ba-boom.
Yeah.
And frightening.
And it's happening more often, and the intraday volatility of stocks is increasing. You can see it statistically. For example, it's like when there's an earnings season, stocks that used to move 1 or 2% on earnings, they now move 10, but they spend the next few days coming back. And that's just a function of the gamification of markets, 24-hour trading, Robinhood, and all those trends. And they're not going away, but you just have to accept them. They just distract, and they cause, the media get a lot of excitement over these meme stocks, for example. They came and went, cannabis stocks came and went, and all these things come and go. But the core premise of the market and what's been driving it is there. And also, as we touched on earlier, the interest rate cycle we're in now is more favorable. So equity markets have done really well over the last 5 years. And with a record rate increasing cycle, the Federal Reserve in the US have shrunk their balance sheets. Remember, everyone used to talk about QE. Well, there's been QT tightening for the last 2 years. They've taken trillions out and markets have done well. So the rates in the US are 4 to 5% at the moment. So if there is a crisis, and there will be a crisis, I'm sure there always is, the Fed have 4% of rate cuts behind them to support the market. So that's a very good backdrop.
And I presume, because this is your business, that you're always looking for the canary in the mine, that you're looking for some little telltale signs. What give me one or two of those that you would keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I think so very topical at the moment is the sort of resurrection in one sense of the trade war between the US and China. So what we've always been saying is that the tariffs and the trade war are two different things. The tariffs was sort of Trump's way of dealing with the short-term problem. The trade war is a 10-year battle between the US and China about decoupling their economies. And the recent announcements over the last few weeks have been slightly worrying because tariffs were all about, if you sell me something for €100, I'm going to put 10% on that. So that's a problem. But businesses can deal with that because we've had COVID and we've sophisticated supply chains. That's, this latest one is about you can't sell me that anymore. And that would be a real blockage of the whole global supply chain. So China flexing its muscle on rare earths, the US flexing its muscle on high-end software. So that's something that should settle down because that's definitely mutually assured destruction. So that, and then the second area you're probably looking at is what's been going on in the private markets over the last 10 or 15 years. Banks haven't been able to lend. So naturally the shadow financing came in and the likes of private equity and private lending came up and it needed to come up, to provide the gap. And that's been great for the markets. However, public lenders have enough problems getting their money back in time. When this has been done so privately and so opaquely as well, the chances of there being some misappropriation of funds is rising. And we started to see that just in the last few weeks and months. There's high profile issues in the US. Jamie Dimon had a very public row over the weekend with the CEO of Blue Owl, which is a private lender, who arguing about who had the cockroaches on their balance sheets, which was a bit undignified on both sides, but it shows they're both worried about it as well. So that's what we'd have a look at.
And I could spend more time talking to you about this because you, after the event the other day, you started talking to me about banks as to what they looked like, because it's all over. The idea that there's going to be a bank on your high street, etc., all over, gone, finished, is not correct.
Well, for the day-to-day basic things, yes. So I think that came from the conversation when we were talking about AI and use cases. And our initial assumption for everyone's is that AI is going to make us do everything quicker. And when I mean everything, I mean at an administrative level. Back office will do it quicker, middle office, tax returns, all these things will be done quicker. However, the guys at the real forefront of this are like, no, you're going to redo how you do everything. You'll no longer need to do a tax return in an AI world because all your information is on your phone. It'll be automatically done. And if you believe in things like stablecoin and Bitcoin, even the payments can be automated through smart contracts. So it won't even, you won't even be filling out the form, let alone someone helping you do it. And it brought us on to, we're using an example of Lloyd's Bank. Their CEO, he made that point. He said, we've 800 large language models we're working on at the moment. He said some of it is to improve our own efficiencies and back office costs. But more of it is about changing how we service customers and trying to get the regulator on board with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And it's why, again, you can be, we think, confident in the longer term return equities offer, because one of the reasons they've done so well, even over a longer period, is this ability to grow their profit margins. And that's directly related to technology. Since the 80s, as tech has become a bigger part of society, margins have got higher and higher. So when we look forward, when all this investment in AI happens, and whether people make a return from it or not, it is going to happen. But the beneficiaries will be enterprises across the world. You'll be able to do just a lot more with less people. You can grow margins, and the markets will be able to trade at an even higher valuation and multiple.
We have reached heaven. Do you think?
No, definitely not. No, but it's just progress. It's always progress.
Progress and something new and something new. We have a final question, Phil, that I know that I told you about. Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
I think, so to run our funds or run our business?
It could be either. It's really, who would you like on your team? Now, don't tell me that you've got the best team in the world.
No.
Because we know that, because you are the award winner. So they must be brill.
Yeah.
But who else would you try to get in on board?
I think there's a hedge fund manager in the US called Stanley Druckenmiller, who to a lot of investors is very famous. To the outside world, he's not as famous, but he's the man
to his bank manager, so he's very happy.
Well, he's the man who broke the Bank of England, not George Soros.
Really?
Yeah, he worked for Soros, and it was his idea. And he talks about this, and he left after that, and he formed his own firm, Duquesne, where he's made 30% a year for 30 years.
You're joking.
Yeah, and what he's so brilliant at is he flies.
What does that compound to? Because 30 on 30 on 30 on 30.
It's impossible.
30.
Yeah, a loss. But what he's done it is in an unconventional way. And he throws out a lot of the conventional wisdoms that people are taught in business school and investing. And he's the living proof of it. My favorite one is that he says, like, people say investing, don't put all your eggs in one basket. He says, I put all my eggs in one basket and I watch it with my life.
Okay.
And it's just a different take on the more generic, kind of banal ways to run money. And he's proven it.
Did you ever meet him?
No, never, no.
Ever in a room with him?
No, maybe one day.
One day?
Yeah.
God, he sounds fascinating. We might get him onto the podcast,
Yeah.
do you think? We might give him some little de facto present. He probably could use it. Phil, that is fantastic. And first of all, I have to, before I forget it again, congratulations on that award. That is a big, big, big award. And that just means, again, a proof that we do have the brains in Ireland to run international money. And we could be doing far, far, far more of it here. I'm a huge believer in that. I always believe that. And lots of really great, not good, great analysts here. So, Phil Byrne, the boss, one of the bosses at Cantor Fitzgerald, the asset management end of it. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
No, thanks.
That Great Business Show.
My next guest is a builder. One of her jobs is working with Oliver James, and they are specialist tech and financial services recruiters. But I did say one of her jobs because she's a true multitasker. She runs Beyond Borders, and that is a career service that has helped 300 plus people land international, or, this is the nice one, fully remote roles. She hosts private invite-only CTO and CIO roundtables in Dublin. That's kind of real talk on AI, cyber and leadership. And because sleep is optional for this lady, she launched an AI career app that scores your CV and points you to a better job, particularly for those of you who want to do one of our favorite things, a career pivot. Carmel Del Rosso, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All of the above is correct?
It is correct. Actually, send that over to me. I'm using my cold calls from now on. It may work better.
You work.
I know.
Why? What's the drive?
I think I am very driven. One of the things that I actually love to do is work. And sometimes they ask me like, well, what's your hobbies, your free time? I was like, well, I'm designing this new business that I can launch. And I'm like, okay.
Because the history is you came from Brazil, went to London to learn English because you said to me that you'd know English. Check out our English. Then you were checking out whether to go to Malta, to Ireland. You decided Ireland's weather was so much nicer than Malta. Not. But anyway, you ended up here and you have now been here 6 odd years. And you keep inventing new businesses and doing new things. It's fantastic.
I know. I should just settle down one day, stop.
But you've been here 6 years.
I know. It's just like, I literally, as you said, like I literally fell in love with Ireland. The weather's fantastic. Guys, you should all move here. Like, I'm really saying it.
And the next thing that you're about to do is to launch this new app.
Yeah.
Which sounds really interesting. Now, I would have thought that if somebody wants to do a career pivot, you just say, I cannot stand what I'm doing. I have to change. But obviously, this app is going to do something bigger, better, brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, it's not a career pivot. It's not only if you're unhappy with your current career, but if you want to, grow yourself internationally or even within your own company, but to different audiences, definitely the way to go. So this app, for example, extracts the best of you, position yourself in a way that perhaps you can't really see it, but when you step back and see what that returns to you, say like, okay.
Is that not what friends are for? You say, Carmen, do you know what? I wouldn't say it's so much about that, but you're really good at that.
Yeah, but would you listen to all your friends?
Yes.
Then there you go. But yeah, so that's a very good way of selling it. Actually, you have very good skills. I'll hire you for my team. So you can have download this app that can be your best friend, telling you what are you good at,
And you obviously are learning from the Oliver James experience because you are their top salesperson. So I was checking out your CV.
I know. Yeah, I don't know who sent my CV to him, but take it back. But yeah, so I started off in Oliver James to build out their quality engineering, software testing desk from scratch, right? So that was one of the services that they didn't have at the time. So I was like, okay, that's the way that I can, pivot my career across Oliver James. So that's when the division itself started growing, and now it's one of their most profitable divisions in the business. Yeah.
It was the most profitable business in Q3, I think. Isn't that what you told me? Yeah. So that is
Just Q3
fantastic.
this year.
Again, tick, 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 you're doing it all right. However, one of the reasons that you are here is to talk to me about AI and the recruitment process, because we have heard lots and lots and lots of everybody is now applying using AI, and you, the recruiters, can spot them at 100 meters or 1,000 meters, correct?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So why do people bother?
Well, you see, there is this thing that everybody needs to use AI now. AI is the future, and I agree with that as long as you use that correctly. So AI, in the end of the day, it's what do you need AI to be, right? Whatever you feed will return to you. So if you're feeding brilliant information, accurate data, you will get, a great return.
But one of the things about ChatGPT, for example, and I use it so much, but there's no heart in it. There's no soul in it. It doesn't actually extract out of you what you're passionate about. It'll say, I was brilliant at, adding sums, or I was brilliant at running up mountains or something. But there's no feel that I loved running up mountains or I loved doing sums.
Yeah, no, there isn't. And that's why you can't rely 100% on it. Every time you will throw any CV at ChatGPT, it will return to you the very same for 1,000 different people. So that's why it's a tool that you can use in your advantage, but not rely on it, at this stage in time. So you need to have your own drive, your own passion transmitted in your CV, in your LinkedIn, in your network, in whatever it is, that you're looking.
Without giving away the whole of the business that you're involved in, how many applications would you typically get? And how many of those applications for a particular job you just put in the bin because you say, AI, good luck, goodbye?
Yeah, look, honestly, in Oliver James, for example, it's a constant, right? So you see the very same words in 1,000 different CVs a day, the very same editing and structure. But for Beyond Borders, for example, what we try to do is...
We'll get on to Beyond Borders, but you have to explain it. What is Beyond Borders?
So Beyond Borders, right, is a digital platform where you can rebrand your career, reposition yourself to have a global career, internationalize your skills.
Everybody dreams of that. You know that we might be. In fact, for me, I'd go down to Brazil if only I spoke the language.
But you don't need to, as long as they understand your idea, right? Of course, if you speak the language, it's much better, right? Yeah. There you go. But that's the thing about internationalizing your career. You need to understand what the markets are looking for. How can I make myself, a great candidate, not just for one specific role, but how can I profit myself and advertise myself in the market? In the end of the day, it's all about sales, how best you sell yourself.
And how does that particular business work, Beyond Borders?
Yeah, so in Beyond Borders, we have a range of different services, right? So we have from one-on-one coaching for someone that is actually actioning it and taking the next step, moving abroad, that would need all the process, all the to be equipped on interviewing, on CVs, on LinkedIn, networking, and starting a new career from scratch in any country they want to go.
Starting a new career from scratch sounds like somebody who's just come out of jail or something.
Well, you see now, we always check the background check's always on it. But it's more like, okay, I have this experience, right? I've done this in X, Y, and Z companies in my own country. Now I want to expand this and make myself seen to the international market, because perhaps I worked in a very similar project that this company in the UK or in Australia is looking for, and I can be a very qualified candidate as long as I am a good match and the company is a good match for myself.
And you have been here, as I mentioned, 6+ years. Yeah. You've obviously got a good feel now for Irish candidates. Where are we weakest? I know we'll talk the hind legs off anybody, but where are we weakest? And you mentioned the word there, networking. I keep telling people they've got to network, and I don't think we're brilliant at networking, are we?
You see, it's very Irish candidates, right? They are brilliant, but you almost have to fight them for them to give you the information. So
our brain, it kind of is muddled a bit.
So sometimes I need to say, look, come on, sell yourself to me. I think the selling point is something that the Irish candidates usually fell off. And it's not because they are not good at this. It's just because they don't feel comfortable saying they are good at this, right?
Unlike Americans, because the Americans are the other end of the stick, aren't they?
I know. Completely different sometimes. And you say, okay, it's enough. I got that.
But isn't that, on that basis, why don't the Americans get all the jobs and the Irish get no jobs if we are so poor at selling ourselves?
Oh, because there's the Irish honesty. You can trust an Irish. They are reliable, they're honest. And if they say to you, I am brilliant, it's because they actually are. Otherwise, maybe if they are brilliant, they're going to say to yourself, no, I'm not good.
I've met people who said they're brilliant and they're not.
No. You see.
Yeah.
Not everybody, though,
So back to Beyond Borders, it's a service, it's a business. So there's a charge, I presume. Typically, how much does it cost for somebody? Because again, I'll say to you, I dream of sitting maybe down in Spain, having a different career in the sun. You came for the sun here. I want the other sun, the one that shines.
Maybe you can go with your own career there, you never know. There's borderless careers. So in Beyond Borders, we have the service that would be the coaching 101. There is also the online course that you can take at your own time, right? And there's also the app that is coming up. So for the 101 coaching, it depends how many sessions you would need. If you're just looking for interviewing, if you're looking for a whole from scratch career guidance, that would be one of the most, expensive compared to the others. But what I usually suggest, start with a course, see where that takes you. You would be a bit more equipped, and then you can start using the coaching 101 just to guide you through where you want to go.
Because I have told many, many people over the years that they should go to coaching for when they've obviously failed at interview. They're obviously doing something wrong because they're really good people.
Yeah.
So it does work.
It does work, actually. So I love coaching myself, and I do believe in coaching and mentorship very much. I always had mentors myself since school, to be honest. So I do believe that sometimes we just focus on one thing specifically, and if you don't have an outside person to tell you, look, let's expand your view, let's see the bigger picture. Sometimes you just rule yourself out just for small little details,
And then you have this other one, the round tables. What are they? What's that?
Oh.
Like, is this another way of spending more time outside in work and not at work?
I know, yeah. But that's the way, my director usually says to me, like, Carmen loves to network, and that's the most expensive way that she found to network with people.
How does it work?
So for the round tables, they are fully subsidized by Oliver James. So I bring together a group of people from different industries just to understand their intake on the topics that we'll be discussing, right? Of course, we run them on a quarterly basis,
and this is not anybody. This is CIO, so Chief Information Officer, CTO, Chief Technical Officer, yeah?
Yeah, so we would have a roundtable specifically for C-suite, so we understand on an oversight what's going on in the industry, but also we would have roundtables for directors, and then, leadership is usually senior leadership, people that are taking the decisions in the company, just to understand where they're head at, what is being pressing, So we try to bring in different industries just to make sure the different perspectives, because it does change a lot.
And we are concerned, because we already mentioned AI, etc., but we're concerned that AI is going to gobble up the jobs. But we are also, as in and the nation, the economy is concerned about jobs from tech, from the drugs companies leaving. What are you seeing in the economy? Are you seeing intake or outtake or outgoing? Are people heading back to the States, or what's the landscape
From
out
Ireland,
there?
you mean?
From Ireland,
yeah. So look, there's always this kind of it comes and goes in waves, right? So there was a massive wave of everybody incoming to Ireland. Then there was a wave of everybody going to Spain, for example. Now Barcelona is being a new, tech hub, and then Madrid. But Ireland itself, it does give a very good pathway for working permits for companies to grow businesses here. So it's a very good networking ecosystem support. So I don't believe there is a way where all the jobs will move to the US or move to other countries. So we still see a massive income of people to here to Ireland, and new businesses, new companies, new jobs being opened. Yeah.
And if there are, and there will be, of course, many companies watching this and listening to this, of course, because we're still on Spotify and on Apple and all those good platforms, is that they're concerned about finding the good people and to attract them here, because there's one big problem. We've no houses. That's a problem. I mean, are you seeing it that people are saying, love to come to Ireland, but I can't live there?
Yeah, we don't have houses in Dublin, but I believe, I presume so, that the companies will start realizing that we have other hubs that we can build out in Ireland, and having other housing opportunities, especially across other counties. Ireland, it is a small country, but at this stage we are super crowded in Dublin itself. But then, there are other hubs that we could expand to.
And of course, you bring a different culture here because you're from Sao Paulo, and Sao Paulo has more people in the city than across the entire island of Ireland. So when you say concentration of people, you have concentration of people in Sao Paulo.
Oh, I'm used to that. We love the crowds, yeah.
Very different, but it's a very different view on life. But back to this thing about trying to attract people. Will people still come to Ireland despite knowing that there are no houses?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I believe the businesses will expand to other locations, and that's where, people can, or even work more towards a hybrid remote kind of basis, so people can live in different locations spread across Ireland, because there are houses. What we don't find houses at the moment in Dublin, in the outskirts of it, right? So that's where it's hard for people to find themselves in. But after you get more stability, you work more towards a kind of a remote job, but within Ireland, a hybrid job, you can live on, on a
Remote
certain
and hybrid,
distance.
I thought it was the tide had turned there, that they're being forced back, asked back, pushed back to the office, correct?
There is, yes, there is.
Well, that means that you won't be able to be hybrid down in Galway or down in Cork or whatever.
Well, at this stage, but I believe that that's something that is changed. There are companies that are re-evaluating, okay, do we actually need this? How much will we spend attracting people and keep them engaged, because that definitely affects. If you need to be in the office 5 days a week, you have a young family, that's something that, and at this stage, is a bit
And
unfeasible.
that's an interesting point, is that if people are hybrid, is there a lower turnover of staff when you're
Oh,
hybrid?
yeah,
Is that
absolutely. So
could you put a number on that? I mean, is it 20, 30, 40, 50% or?
I couldn't put a number on it because I just don't want to give wrong information. No, I'm very specific, but it's a massive change. Even if you have like 1 day from home or like 2 days from home, that is a massive change to being on site 5 days a week. Because if you have to be on site 5 days a week, you need to live within a commutable distance to the office, which means that you limit the amount of people you would have. You limit the age of the people that you would have, because, as I said, if you have a young family, if you're starting now, you need to do pickups, you need to do drop-offs. Like, how can you manage all of that, right? So we see a massive difference. What we tend to advise clients on, and what I've seen many companies trying to do now, is have this hybrid flexibility here and there.
I was talking to somebody the other day who was trying to hire, and one of the problems that they had run into was that the young people felt, and they were leaving his operation, this guy, because there wasn't a social life in the office. Now, that's an interesting one. You can't have a social life and be hybrid. Like, if you're in, you're in. Or am I old-fashioned on that?
Well, it is hard to have a social life when you're remote, right? When you're fully remote, you don't see your peers, so it's hard. Otherwise, you're going to be hanging out over Teams. Yeah. But if you're a hybrid, there are companies can adopt those meetup days where everybody goes to the office at the same day. They all meet up. They engage this kind of events where, there's drinks after hours, or like any kind of games, or engage in bonding activities, which it would be lovely, right? That's the way companies can do that.
You call them lovely, I call them awful.
Really? You see, that's the culture difference.
I used to work in a large organization, and they were the absolute things I hated. I loved my fellow workers, but I didn't want to be running around, as I had to, on a beach in the north of Netherlands at one stage, pushing a big plastic ball. And I said, nah, this is not for me. That's probably one of the reasons why I have worked for myself for many, many years.
Okay.
To keep away from all of that kind of stuff.
Maybe the fully remote works for you best. Maybe from Spain.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I have a perfect name for you to reach out to, right?
Oh, great.
It's Beyond Borders.
Well, and if anybody does want to contact Beyond Borders, what kind of people are the ideal characteristics of the people who should be using your service?
Yeah, so as I said, we have two services, right? To start with the course, you can start at any stage of your career, right? If you just need guidance, if you're starting off, whatever it is.
Like a 22, 23-year-old straight out of college.
Yeah, you could, especially because it is ideal at this stage that you have some guidance where to start off, so I highly recommend. Now, for the coaching, mentoring 101, then I would advise you being someone that have been in the market for quite a while. So you would need to have some experience and some, certifications, whatever it is that you work across. And then, of course, depending on the country that you're going to, some fluency on the language, right?
Will help.
Or English itself, yeah.
But we'll all have English, but we're not great on other people's languages. You know that. You probably have learned that. And
Yeah, but people coming here, they need to be, so,
How many languages you got? I know that you have Portuguese, you've got Italian, you've got English. What else have you got?
Spanish, yeah. So
That's 4.
Yeah,
Any
I
more?
know.
Any more?
Well, I need to learn Irish one day,
My first language. I'll teach you Gaeilge. I'll teach you Irish. We have a final question that I know that I've told you about. Is who would Carmen Del Rosso hire in a heartbeat?
In a heartbeat, I would hire Gabriele. He is one of the person that I most look up to. He's also have a very similar background to myself, of course. Much more senior, much more wiser and experienced, right? So he comes from sales itself. He is now the head of sales for large operation customers in Google. So if you're looking to upscale, right, your sales, any stage of your business strategy, that's someone that you'd love to have on board.
And how come you came across him, or what's the connection?
So yeah, I met him when I first moved to Ireland. So I met him and his wife, who was also fantastic, and then we became friends, and that's how we go. Yeah.
So that's one of the better suggestions that I've seen for a while, for a reason, because it's not Michael O'Leary. Everybody wants Michael O'Leary. I would too, but there's a good reason. That's fantastic. So anybody who wants to contact you, they will find you at Oliver James. And you told me that the company's called Oliver James because there is an Oliver and there is a James. Very simple. Yeah. And or Beyond Borders. And she's all over LinkedIn. And where else are you? Have you got a website?
Yeah, so for Beyond Borders, you can find on bbeyond.ai. That's our website. And then on LinkedIn, on Instagram, you can find us at beyondborders.ie. If you speak Portuguese and Spanish, if you speak English, you can find us at beyondborders.en. Yeah.
I've just remembered, there's always that last question. Because I found this out about you.
Ooh.
You were almost scammed
Almost.
for €35,000 in about 30 seconds. Tell me the story and how come you weren't scammed.
Right, so I arrived in Ireland, right? First thing, I was here and I was looking for a job. It was COVID times, everything was closed. And then this person reached out to me and said, like, look, I'm looking for someone to work at home, look after your kids. It's like, okay, that's fantastic, right? And they're like, okay, I'm going to send you your first check, right? Before you come to work. So you can come, all guaranteed. You just need to send me your passport, all your details. And I was like, okay, fantastic. I'll send you my PPS. I sent everything, every single detail this person needed. Then the check arrived, right? And then they go like, look, you just need to cash the check and then you can start working. I also sent an extra money because it's one of the family members' birthday, so you can bring them a present as well. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting, right? That's a different culture, and that's why you need a coach and a mentor, right? Otherwise, you don't fall in scams. So I opened up the check, was £5,000 actually.
Okay.
Yeah, from the Lloyds Bank, and I was like, that's a bit weird, right? And then I went to check what was the situation. I was like, we don't even have Lloyds Bank here. That's the first step. So I reached out to them and understand what was the situation, and then the advisor guided me through. Well, look, if you check this, someone will receive the £5,000, which is a loan under your name. So it was actually a loan made under your name, my name, with my details.
Get away.
And I was like, I can't believe it. 5 minutes in Ireland.
And how come they were managing to make it into a loan?
I have absolutely no idea. And then I was like, obviously, I was advised to get rid of that. And it's like, look, have you ever applied for this? Because there was actually an application online and all with all details, with some pictures. Apparently at the time you need to do a face check, right, to pass, and they passed. And I was like, how? It was mind-blowing at the time.
And what happened at the end? Did you just tear it up? Did you just put it in the bin?
Yeah, they're like, look, do you want to go ahead with your application? I was like, I didn't apply for this. Get my name out of this. And I was like, yeah.
I had no idea that was the scam. Wow.
It was a very scary at the time because imagine yourself, it was just here, it was very fresh, and then it was COVID at the time, so it was a very hard situation for everybody. So you were already a bit on the edge, And then I was like, I can't believe it. How is this possible?
Well, luckily it didn't happen. So good news. And thank you so much.
I didn't get the £35,000 though. I know.
But you got another better job. And now you're the top sales person in Oliver James, isn't that right?
There you go. For Q3, let's say Q4, guys,
Oh, that's what it's all about. Next time. Always the next time. Carmen Del Rosso, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And that is it for episode 267 of That Great Business Show, officially Ireland's best business podcast. Who says so? UCD Smurfit Business School says so. We are brought to you thanks to De Facto Shaving Oil, made in Mayo, sold online to the world. It is the world's best shaving oil. It is not a beard oil. It is for anyone who shaves. It's all natural, so you can use it anywhere, whatever you shave. Do please repost us on LinkedIn. Do nothing else. Just push the little repost button. And now that we're on video, our Foley artist and dolly grips today were Lee Brennan and Richard Ryan, while the key grip here at Dublin South FM Podcast Studios, Peter Rice, goes Supreme Scorsese later on, getting us Oscar nomination ready. And as always, it's a big thank you studio from me, Conall Moran. Buchas to you all, agus slán tamil.